On the night of the 19th of November 1995, a terrible disaster struck the small town of Wem in Shropshire. But from the ashes of that day, a single photograph would bring Wem both national and international attention, captivating both believers and skeptics alike, provoking debate and investigation, and creating a mystery that is endured to this day. But was the photo all that it seemed? The earliest known history of Wem can be traced back to the Iron Age, where evidence of early settlements have been discovered. But it wouldn't be until the Anglo-Saxon period in England, which lasted from 410 to 1066 CE, when Wem would be named. Originally dubbed Wam, the Saxon word for marsh, due to boggy lands around the nearby River Roden, the name would evolve over the centuries to what we now know as Wem. But it wasn't until the 3rd of March in 1677 that the first part of our story begun, when a young girl of around 14 years of age named Jane Churm allegedly accidentally set fire to the thatched roof of her home with a candle on Leek Lane, now known as Leek Street. The fire would ultimately spread and consume almost the entire town of Wem, robbing many people of their homes and livelihoods, and resulting in nearly £24,000 worth of damage and loss, around 4.7 million when adjusting for inflation today. 318 years after the 1677 fire, on the 19th of November 1995, Wem once again witnessed disaster, when a fire began inside what was then the 91-year-old town hall. A fire that gutted the entire building, leading to a 5-year-long rebuild completed in the year 2000. On the day of the fire, a local sewage worker named Tony O'Rahilly watched with many other Wem residents in awe as the fire consumed the building. And Tony, who is also an amateur photographer, decided to photograph the building as firefighters tackled the blaze. Unable to get up close to the building and fire due to a safety cordon, Tony used a 200mm telephoto lens to capture several images on 2 rolls of film using 2 different cameras. And on the 4th of March 1996, when Tony finally processed the images from the 2nd roll of film in his home studio, he made a startling discovery. In one of the many photographs Tony had taken, there, amongst the raging inferno, amidst all the chaos, was a young girl in old-fashioned clothing, untouched by the fire surrounding her. Who was the girl? How was she able to appear so calm? Why did nobody, especially Tony, not see her? And why were there no reports of the death or even the remains of a young girl in the town hall fire? As is the way with many old buildings, rumours of hauntings at the Wem Town Hall had circulated for years, with one account dating back to 1940, 35 years after the town hall was built, when apprentice projectionist Wilmot Barry claimed to have witnessed a mist ascending a set of spiral stairs at handrail height. Wilmot claimed that as the mist came closer, the temperature began to drop, and as the mist reached the top of the stairs, it intelligently turned right and carried on down a corridor, before disappearing. And in January of 1996, 2 months after the fire, 2 tradesmen working for construction company Frank Galliers Limited were working in the building when they witnessed an apparition in what was the old changing room area. One of the tradesmen was reported to have been so scared that he refused to return to the building. Roger Stokes, a safety investigation officer, stated in August of 1996 in a television interview that the 2 tradesmen were 2 honest lads who wouldn't have reported the story if it weren't true for fear of ridicule. Roger Stokes also shared his own story, claiming that the day after the fire, when he was inspecting the building, he witnessed footprints that could only belong to a small child near the location where Tony had captured his now famous photo.
Whilst I was looking at where I could tread, there appeared to me 3 or 4 footprints of a child size. They were sort of, one would guess at about 3 or 4, size 3 or 4.
So just very small footprints?
Just very small footprints. Yes, just there.
Upon discovering his own ghostly visage in the negatives from that day, Tony sent the photo to the local paper, the Shropshire Star, who subsequently interviewed Tony and published a story on the front page of the Wednesday 6th of March 1996 edition. Written by Joe Cunningham and Alison Mountney, the Shropshire Star claimed the exclusive publication, but it appears the locals were already aware of the photo, or at least the alleged paranormal occurrences in Wem, and excitement had already been brewing. They state that entry signs for Wem had apparently been changed by locals, who had covered up the twin town information with signs that simply read Ghost Town. Chris Wright, an investigator for the regional paranormal research group Parasearch, was also interviewed for several articles published by the Shropshire Star, who commented,
"It is the most interesting alleged ghost picture I have ever seen, especially given the story of the girl who started the fire in the 17th century.
But Chris Wright also added,
Obviously we have to treat these things with suspicion, and we would like to get the negative examined by our expert."
Over the next few weeks, the Shropshire Star featured the story in multiple editions, whilst the photo's fame grew around the country, with many other national and local media outlets now publishing their own articles. And 5 months after the photo's initial publication, in August of 1996, Tony and his story appeared on an episode of the BBC series Out of This World, and again in November on the ITV children's TV series It's a Mystery. The ghost of Wem Town Hall was now formally cemented in the public eye, and with many believers agreeing that it was the ghost of Jane Churm, who for some reason was haunting the town hall, but many others were sceptical. Whilst the 1677 fire of Wem is well known and documented, what isn't clear is why Jane Churm would specifically haunt the town hall. The fire of 1677 began in Leek Lane, now known as Leek Street, and whilst Leek Lane was less than 200 yards from where the town hall now stands, Jane Churm would have no direct links to the current town hall, because it didn't exist for another 228 years. Wem Town Hall was constructed in 1904, meaning it was 91 years old when it burned, which in relative terms could have been considered to be quite young at the time compared to more immediate surrounding buildings, such as the Castle Hotel for example, a Grade 2 listed building that's over 400 years old and sits almost immediately at the top of Leek Street, and would have been around in some form when Jane Churm was alive, and as such would likely have been far more familiar to Jane than a 20th century construction. Some believe that perhaps Jane's spirit appeared in the flames due to her guilt of starting the fire that destroyed much of the town in the 17th century, whilst others believe that Jane perhaps started the town hall fire herself, especially when considering the cause of the fire wasn't confirmed, yet both of these theories have major flaws. Assuming ghosts exist, for Jane Churm to appear in spirit form as a child, one would assume Jane must have perished in the fire, forever cursed to haunt Wem as a 14-year-old girl. Yet in one of the few contemporary accounts of the 1677 blaze, it was stated that only one person died in the fire.
One man and several cattle were consumed in the flames. The man was Richard Sherratt, a shoemaker who lived on that ground where Sarah Jones now does. Having fetched a parcel of shoes out of his shop, he was seen to go under the market house, which is supposed to have fallen on him.
Why would Jane Churm haunt the town hall as a 14-year-old girl, when it's likely she went on to live a much longer life. A possible explanation is the stone tape theory, which at its core is a pseudoscientific theory that suggests traumatic or highly emotional experiences or events could be recorded in the surrounding environment, similar to the way in which grooves are made on a record, which play back over and over again. But even with the concept of the stone tape theory, it doesn't make sense that Jane's spectre would have been recorded in the material of a 20th century town hall. The second flaw is the suggestion that Jane Churm herself caused the town hall fire, and this is why her spirit was captured in the building that day. Not only does this suggest an intelligent haunting, but also accuses Jane of malice in the original cause of the 1677 fire, framing Jane as an arson instead of the accepted cause of the fire to be a careless accident. And further, if Jane did start the fire, why wait 318 years before doing so? Both of these theories are critically flawed, as not only do they rely solely on assuming that the existence of the paranormal is real, but they also simply don't align with the accepted historical facts of the original fire and modern logical observations. On the 12th of March 1996, the Shropshire Star reported that Parasearch had handed the photos over to the esteemed Dr. Vernon Harrison for his opinion. Dr. Harrison was a former president of the Royal Photographic Society and a co-founding member of the Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena, more commonly known as the ASSAP, as well as a member for the Society for Psychical Research, commonly known as the SPR. Dr. Harrison had developed an interest in forgeries of all kinds after his role as research manager at De La Rue & Co. during the 60s and 70s, and once he retired, Dr. Harrison continued this role as an independent consultant. On the 6th of April 1996, the Daily Star very proudly announced on page 16 of their daily rag, "She's dead real," claiming that the photo, and also suggesting that the ghost, had been confirmed as real and genuine by the Royal Photographic Society and the ASSAP, with Chris Wright of Parasearch adding, "The photograph itself appears not to have been faked." However, Dr. Harrison's actual verdict and opinion on the image was as follows.
The negative is a straightforward piece of black and white work, and shows no sign of having been tampered with.
At no point does Dr. Harrison state that the ghost is real, only that in his professional opinion the photo and negative had not been tampered with. The opinion is later expanded upon by Phil Walton of the ASSAP, who stated in the August episode of Out of This World,
Do you therefore say that this is a genuine photograph of a ghost?
Well, it looks like a girl, but that doesn't actually mean that it is a girl here. My personal belief is it's something falling out of the fire onto the railing and giving us the image of what looks like a girl. And the problems are, if you look just here, it's very square. So I think it's a beam fallen out, still burning, glowing onto the sides, another piece of debris in the action of falling, and we have a jagged, raggedy edge as the heat's rising, etc. The rest of it's square, and this weird little face on the front.
The position held by the ASSAP is that the image of the girl is actually what is commonly referred to as a simulacrum. A simulacrum is defined as a slight, unreal or vague semblance of something, a superficial likeness. In this case, the ASSAP concluded that the face is merely debris still burning and positioned in such a manner as to resemble the face of a young girl. In the same episode, the photo was taken by the BBC to the National Museum of Photography, Film and Television to be examined by their experts. Will Stapp, who was the head of interpretation, and one of their photographic officers, Paul Thompson. Will Stapp concluded that the image doesn't feel right and it had been manipulated, whilst Paul Thompson offered an even more in-depth and startling revelation, pointing out what appeared to be television scan lines across just the girl's face, suggesting the image of the girl may have been captured from a television screen and doctored into the final negative, concluding the image was consistent with being manipulated.
TV screen?
Yeah, that's what it suggests to me.
What do you mean?
Horizontal scanning lines, like you get from a TV picture.
They're just around this area where the supposed ghost is?
Yeah, they don't appear on the rest of the image. The image of the girl has been taken straight from a TV screen, photographed onto film.
These claims were put to Tony, who categorically denied the allegations that his photo was a hoax.
They say that the horizontal lines on the girl's face suggest that it's been lifted from something like videotape and then superimposed on the snapshot of the fire.
No, under that door, no way.
The photograph of the Wem ghost girl continued to circulate in the media, and now to a wider audience online through social media. But one question would always remain: was it a hoax? And this question was finally answered in 2010. As part of their Pictures of Our Past segment, the Shropshire Star posted an image of a postcard featuring a photograph of Wem High Street in 1922, and a man named Brian Lear from Shrewsbury, south of Wem, noticed something peculiar. There in the doorway of the White Horse Hotel on Wem High Street was a young girl, and Brian stated in an interview for the Shropshire Star published on the 17th of May 2010,
I was intrigued to find that she bore a striking likeness to the little girl featured as the Wem ghost. Her dress and headgear appear to be identical.
And Brian was right. But the girl didn't just bear a striking resemblance. It was the very same young girl, as can be clearly seen when both images are compared side by side. After 14 years of debate and speculation, it was finally confirmed. The photo of the ghost girl of Wem is fake. In 1677, Jane Churm unwittingly caused a devastating catastrophe in Wem that would echo some 300 years later, reigniting interest not only in her story, but also creating a new legend and mystery that endured for 14 years. Tony O'Rahilly always denied the photo was a fake, right up until his death in 2005, 5 years before the photo was revealed to be fake, when tragically in his mid-50s, Tony passed away due to a heart attack. In an interview for the Daily Mail, Peggy Carson, former Wem Town and North Shropshire District Councillor and friend of Tony, stated that she believed the stress caused by interest in his picture contributed to his death. As such, we will unfortunately never know if Tony purposely faked the photo to create a deliberate hoax. As Tony himself admitted, he didn't develop the second reel of film for some months after the fire, once he'd finished the reel taking family photos. So it's entirely possible Tony could have accidentally double exposed the film in camera with an image of the 1922 postcard. And whilst the photo has been categorically proven as a fake, its effect on the town of Wem cannot be understated. In the immediate aftermath of the photo's publication, the small market town of Wem saw increased interest and tourism from paranormal enthusiasts and enjoyed a significant 15 minutes of fame, both nationally and internationally. And the image of the ghost girl of Wem persists even today, with claims still circulating online that it is 100% legitimate. A reader, known only as Disgusted Reader, had this to say on the photo's effect on Wem in a letter published in the Shropshire Star in October of 1996, when expressing their dissatisfaction at the results of that year's Shropshire Tourist Association Awards.
The whole thing is a complete farce. Wem winning the Most Improved Town Award, when right in the middle of the high street we have a burnt out shell of a town hall complete with scaffolding and numerous shops boarded up. I think a lot of Wem, but to give our town this award is an insult to other towns in the competition. Especially, I feel really sorry for Mr. Tony O'Rahilly, who has put Wem on the map more than anybody else with his photograph of the Wem ghost.
Thanks for watching. It's been 6 long years since I last published a video, and in that time I've dealt with many personal setbacks and demons. But during that time, one thing has remained consistent, and that's the over 1,200 of you that have stuck around. And I cannot thank you enough for staying subscribed and keeping this channel alive. Make sure you check out Al Cognito, who assisted with additional narration on this video.
Hello there, my name is Al Cognito. Over on my channel, I am a YouTube gamer, lore analyst and tea lover. Check it out if you like to look at the deep stories, the atmospheres and the mysteries that go along with these video games. I'm going to go pop the kettle on.
I'd also like to say a special thank you to Joseph Sifala of Anomaly Documentaries, who has listened to me rant about many things for many years now, specifically my seemingly endless struggle to breathe life back into this channel. He's been a good friend and inspiration, and instrumental in encouraging me to pull my finger out and make something new. Make sure you check out Anomaly Documentaries, and I'll hopefully see you again very soon. I promise it won't be another 6 years. Maybe.